So the final race for the 2024 Auto Solo Championship is looming. I started the season with the hope of finishing better than 5th. The target for that was going to be a podium, so 1st, 2nd or 3rd. Right now, after the semi-final, I'm sitting in 2nd place, which is good. Now that's not to say that I'm going to stay there. 1st place is a bit of a possibility, but I've got the fight of my life sitting ahead of me.
I'm Ali Burgess and this is my Mark III MX-5. So my car has had a reasonable amount of work done to it. So I have a BBR 180 and that includes a catted header, a centre pipe and a back box. For suspension mods I have Maestro coilovers and also poly bushes all round. Also got RX-8 sway bars, and for wheels I have Ozy Ultralegeras, and they are wrapped in Potenza Sport tyres. I chose an NC just for a bit more comfort. I was planning to drive it a bit more during the week, as a bit more of a daily, but not too often. I've retrofitted cruise control, added Apple CarPlay, that sort of thing. It just makes it a bit more comfortable on the way to and from Autotests.
Right.
Hi there, I'm Iain Carr. I'm one of the board members at the Scottish Sporting Car Club. Ali is currently a very comfortable 1st. I think at this point he would just have to fail to get up in the morning for anyone to stand a chance of even drawing with him.
I'm pretty happy. It's been a bit of an odd year for me. Got married and changed jobs, so to be able to be sitting where I am on the scoreboard, I'm pretty damn happy.
Tom is sitting in 2nd place, and if he can get a full set of points and Ali either does not start or fails to arrive, he can draw on points, and then it will come down to a heat of the results, that whoever got the most 1sts, then 2nds, 3rds, all the way down, and we'll eventually find the winner.
Not until after I finished the sprint did I think there was any chance of winning anything, but realistically, the battle for 1st is definitely not where my challenge lies.
My name is Andrew Park and I drive a Mark II Mazda MX-5. I believe I'm currently 3rd in the table, just behind you by I think 1 or 2 points, so it's very close with the coming into the last event.
Oh.
So the car is quite heavily modified. When we got it, it had a bucket seat with a harness and a roll bar. Since then, the most major change has been the fact that we've supercharged it, fitted an aftermarket ECU, and we charge cooled it. So instead of being a normal air-to-air intercooler, it's a water intercooler essentially. We fitted coilover suspension. We fitted a limited slip differential to it. Got some new wheels and tires. That's more or less it. It's gone all right. It's not gone as well as I would like, mainly because I'm just really competitive. You know, obviously still competing for 2nd in the championship. Unfortunately, Ali has disappeared off into the sunset. Still reasonably pleased to be competing for a podium finish.
How is Andrew's position on the board right now?
Slightly frustrating for myself, given he's in the same car. But no, Andrew's sitting in 3rd place, 1 position ahead of me, and definitely within hunting distance of 2nd.
How likely is 2nd is a very good question. I think it would depend on both how you and I drive on the day. Obviously, we can both have our on and off days. What the weather's like as well is also a massive variable. I would always fancy my chances.
I'd need everything to go very well, and Andrew to again not either be there on the day or fail to finish, and somehow I finish in the same car. So it's very unlikely for me to get onto the podium this year.
Not at all. No, Iain and I have shared a car together for now quite a few years, competed against each other for a couple for that full time. So no, he knows his place.
So for the car next year, we've obviously modified this car heavily to be good at what it's good at. Now that their competition has stepped up, we've found some weaknesses. We want to rework the suspension and also add hydraulic handbrake to help us at rotating into corners. Finally is getting both seats into full buckets with full harnesses and hopefully take it sprinting is the goal. Where we'll be up against Tommy in the sprint because he had a free rein at it this year. Forrestburn's a unique challenge, much more technical because of the space constraints, can challenge drivers and also just push the envelope a bit more in terms of you have to know your limits.
It's quite a slick track when it's got damp on it, so when it's dry, I think it'll be better.
It's good because it's got like a kind of dedicated sprint track aspect to it. And it's good from a spectator's point of view as well, because you can sit up on the hill and see everything that's happening in front of you. Benefit of our Deere is it's more of a blank canvas because we can basically make the space do whatever we want. So there's definitely pros and cons of both.
Forrestburn for me is a difficult one. I've never really done well on it, but what can you do? You've just got to shoot for the stars and try not to land in the gutter. So let's go race. This is a flying lap start. Size it out. We've got a passenger. Hey. So the logical thing you want to be doing in your first lap is to go slow and steady. That way you get a good chance to learn the course without taking out any buckets.
I like to go for a balance between doing it as quick as I think I can comfortably do it in, but also making sure that I don't get it wrong.
After my first lap at Forrestburn, I was very aware that this was a very quick course.
If you get it wrong the first time, the amount of people that get it wrong the second and third time is ridiculous, whereas if you get it right the first time, you're much less likely to get it wrong after that.
The reason for this, which probably isn't very well broadcast, is that you only actually get the course route 24 hours before you do the test.
Small mistakes could make big impacts in terms of your time and also potentially the car.
So it's always a balancing act, and I try and just make sure that I get it right at a comfortable speed where I know I can add speed, and try and figure out where specifically I can add speed and how much, and just focus on trying to get it right.
I just send it. Every second counts, and I'll just take the risk in a bucket. So for the final at Forrestburn, this is the first time we ever got to use the hill climb track for it. Normally we're sitting in the paddock doing our event. Thankfully, it wasn't just a new thing for me, it was new for everyone. So the playing field was pretty level.
Not bad. I've ditched my excess weight now, we're getting competitive.
First section of Forrestburn, it was quite challenging. It was the first time I had driven round the sprints track part of Forrestburn.
It's different, but every Autotest is different on the day. That's what really makes it challenging.
Certainly breaking downhill into the hairpin without ABS on our car was definitely a challenge.
Camber was all over the place.
Big Wellwood brakes were also very determined to lock the inside front wheel.
And there was gravel, and it was cold.
So keeping the car stable, level, and composed into there was certainly a challenge.
So for anyone who's unsure about who's taking first, the electric car in the front is who we discussed at the start of the episode, who was meant to be in an NC. It won't really matter what he runs, because clearly he's going to win.
As we said before, the only way for Ali to potentially not win would be if he didn't start the event, which very nearly happens, because before he even turned up to the event, about half a mile shy, he drove into a ditch, basically.
So it's interesting to see an electric car performing something like this. And I'll be very interested to see the times. Although I suspect, as he has no gears to worry about, it's probably going to be quick.
The most challenging element for the second stage was probably getting the speed carried through the hairpin. Approximately corner 4 right was the toughest part.
You could see more of it like leading away up in front of you. So it was maybe slightly easier to just sit in and see it for the first time and be able to drive it at a kind of reasonable rate.
You went too fast, you were too wide for the bucket that forced you to be tight on the exit. You went too slow, you were just hemorrhaging time. There was a lot of time to be made there.
Right, so I'm in third. Now the chat with this is, Mr. Park is a good 5 seconds ahead of me. I'm not likely to beat him at this point. However, I just need to finish 1 space behind him to give him a headache. So between me and him, there is currently a Mazda RX-8 and it's 0.7 of a second ahead of me. Now, the first section of the 2 courses that we run back to back, I am weak on that hairpin. Because it's a downhill hairpin and I'm off camber on it. I hate that. It's bloody cold, by the way. This racing in November thing. I also just had lunch, so stuck to 1 burger. What? Tactics. Wait, now we're going to have the concentration pellet. We're on spearmint rather than the strong mint variety. That might be the problem, by the way. Usually I'm in the blue ones, we're on the green ones. Might be losing time with that. I'm really clutching at straws here.
So the flying finish was a new concept for the event.
Normally when you're on an Autotest, you will come to a stop within a box. And that is like, the leading wheels must stop between 4 cones. That ends your run.
It's the first time we've had one at an event, and again, that's kind of more in line with what you'd see at sprint events.
But you must then fully stop before the next stop cone.
That pretty much puts you out the running. So it was a big criteria not to get that wrong.
Like, it wasn't very far down the road, and by the time we hit the finish, we were doing like nearly 60 miles an hour sometimes.
If you do overshoot, there will be an additional minute added to your time for the day.
Yeah, and you better believe I was not getting that one wrong.
Took that a wee bit braver, but I'm not sure if it's still brave enough.
At the end of the event, we had a finishing order of Andrew, then a member from a associated club, not part of the championship, and then Tommy was just trailing off the back of second place.
So Andy beat me on the day, which was something I was probably expecting, what with Forrestburn being not my favourite track. But I also got pipped just at the end by the little white Sprite. So I actually filmed this footage knowing that at the end of the day, whilst in the paddock, just to explain that I was going to be placing third. And that's when I noticed something interesting. So I may have been a little bit of a tart, and I had a word with the steward.
Upon further review, it was found that the car in second place was on tyres not within the championship rules.
So as a result, the placement that he had on the day still stood, because again, it's not our track, so why disrupt that standing? However, for the purposes of our championship, he received a disqualification, which popped me up a space on the board.
So Tommy's the grass. Tommy's the grass because I finished first. The guy that came second had tyres which are not legally allowed within the rules of the Autotest.
All of the following vehicles were then moved up in accordance as it was removed from the results.
And he got disqualified, so Tommy got bumped up to second.
That had major impacts on the championship.
We ended up in a tie on points.
In the championship rules, the next stage of that is to look at who has the most first places, which was tied. Who has the most second places, which in this case, Tommy, having finished second on the day, pulled ahead of Andrew by 1 second place and claimed second place in the championship.
Tommy gets second because he's better than I was this time.
So winning the podium is nice, I won't lie. But the problem with winning is that you only really get like a couple of hours to bask in that glory. You've only got 3 months before the next season. So the tactics and the improvements start pretty much the minute you stop racing. What are you planning to keep the trophy next year?
I'd like to enter the sprints, and I think that's been key for you getting a decent amount of points. So I think if I enter the sprints, I'll be able to give me that wee bit extra to then, if I miss a couple of auto solos, it then doesn't matter.
Next year's season is going to be a challenge for me. So not because of the MX-5, but the challenge is what to use. So, I mean, this car will take a podium. We'll see take a podium. The possibility of it getting first, depending on what the other guys do, is always going to be there. So it's the reliable choice, but the potential for a car that could definitely take first in the low cost is there. But it's not finished and it's definitely not tested. So what to do is going to be a tough decision. Yeah. I don't know, it's a tough one. I think the winter off season is going to decide a lot of that. So watch the low cost episodes obviously, because that'll determine whether or not anything comes out in February. But No exciting times ahead. Right. This is weird. I need to get out of this seat.
Yep.
That's it. That's all the stuff I needed. So that's it.
Cool.
That's the car. Thank you very much. See, you're good,